Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome everybody to the FPV news, and boy, we do have some big news to talk about this week, Blunty. One of the biggest news stories I think we've ever covered. I don't know. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think how everything went down, timing and all that caused one of the biggest drama slash upsets that happened in FPV so far.
A global FPV outage, if you will. And we will be talking about that. In fact, that's going to be our major story this week. We're going to get to that just as soon as we get through a couple of little introductory things. And the first introductory thing is to tell you that today's stream is sponsored, like the last few, by Keto Chow. I have some Keto Chow here. We'll be talking about them. We'll do a little ad read later in the stream. I was just chuckling. I looked over and saw this on the bottom of the Keto Chow. There is a secret message panel on the bottom of the bag of Keto Chow, and it says, "Who's the loser now?" But we're not going to talk about that right now. Instead, I'm going to remind you guys that if you guys would like, we don't do a ton of chat interaction during the news because we're so busy talking about the news. But if you guys want to make sure that we see your message and read your message on the stream, the way to do that is to hit the $sign and leave a super chat. And we will be paying attention to those during the stream. If they're timely, we'll read them in a timely manner, and we may save some of them to the end. But don't forget those exist just because this is the news. But we got something that we need to get to first, don't we, Blunty? That's our public service announcements.
Yeah, and our first PSA is goes out to help one of our community members the FPV community and also in the Joshua Bardwell community, Tim Barth.
Yeah, there he is. Tim Barth, let me zoom this in. Oh, there we go. He is an FPV pilot and a JB patron. Thank you, Tim, for your support. Now it's my turn to sort of pay it back a little bit in some small way. Tim has a diagnosis of a rare form of brain cancer that sadly has no cure. And some time ago, he sold all his FPV gear to raise money for medical treatment. And now, I mean, I guess he's decided like what he wants to do with his time. And one of the things he would like to be doing is flying FPV. And so he has asked, and Blunty, we're very selective about which GoFundMes we do and don't promote on the news. But I felt like this was a case where it was the right thing to do. He's got a GoFundMe. He's raising money, and we want to throw it out there. There's a link down there trying to raise money. I mean, I'm sure that at this time in his life, medical expenses are his major concern. So however you need to think of it, if you feel like contributing, we've got a link there. And I think we wish him the best. And yeah, hope he gets all the help he needs and gets to do what he wants to do with his life. So
absolutely.
All right. We got a few other PSAs before we get into the main story.
Let's see. Our first FPV electronics technology PSA today is going to be about HOTA. The HOTA chargers have gotten a new feature that we wanted to point out a little bit as a PSA, kind of, hey, don't do this by accident, but also as a, hey, this is a cool feature that people have been looking for. Yeah.
The continuous mode, and here's a photo from Hero Psycho, a guy, a friend of mine on the Discord server. He's just updated the firmware on his HOTA charger and found that this new feature was there. And I'll tell him what the new feature does, and then you tell him why it might be risky. This is a feature that Toolkit RC first pioneered. At least that's where I first saw it. So for those who are very, very, very concerned about who did something first and who's copying who, Toolkit RC should get credit for this one. Continuous mode means that you start charging a battery. When the battery's done charging, you take the battery off the charger, and then if you just plug another battery in, it immediately starts charging that battery without you having to just hit go. And it's very convenient. I mean, okay, it's just like click, click, but especially if you've got a charger with 2 channels, having to go channel 1, channel 2, start, confirm. It's a little easier if you're charging a bunch of batteries to just go plug the new one in and it goes. And I've really regretted this because I am a big, big fan of HOTA and HobbyMate chargers, and not as big a fan of Toolkit RC chargers, but it is a very nice feature. And now, you can get it just by updating. So if you've never updated the firmware on your HOTA S6 or your D6 Pro, go do it. This is the killer feature that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
So why is it dangerous?
Word of warning. Yeah, only one word of warning. So it comes automatically on. So as soon as you update, this is good. This feature is going to start. And so if you're not paying attention, you might charge batteries of different milliamp hours, and those will be charged at different C rates. And so if you plug in a lower amperage battery, lower milliamp battery, after you charge with a higher milliamp battery, it's just going to charge at a higher rate. So probably something most people are never going to run into. If you change the cell count, it's obviously not going to charge. It'll see the cell count is wrong. It's just that amperage rate. But just in case, you might run into that. But otherwise, awesome feature. Well, maybe it just shouldn't be on automatically. That's all.
Yeah, but if it wasn't on automatically, no one would know it was there. So
also possible.
So like the situation, just to give an example, let's say you've got a 5S 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and you're charging it at 10 amps, which is 2C. Or not 5S, 6S 5,000 for a giant battery. So you're charging it at 10 amps, which is 2C. And then you plug in a 1,000 milliamp hour battery. And now it will just immediately start charging, but at 10 amps, which is 10C. And you might not want that to happen. So just pay attention to which batteries you're plugging in and be aware that this feature has been added. But I love it, and I'm totally a fan of it. I'm so happy that they did this. So good for them. We got another PSA about... Well, this one's about battery C rating, and it's a sort of a warning that needs to be repeated all the time. And so it's time once again for this warning to go out via a very well-written note from Ryan Harrell, one of the smartest guys in FPV. Let's see, Blunty, what do we want to say about this?
Yeah, so he's basically given 2 shout outs here, basically. Like, hey, basically, don't necessarily trust your electronics is the long and short of this. So if you've got an ESC, don't assume it's going to pull the full amperage that it says unless you've tested it, had people test it, or know that it's going to work out. Because sometimes manufacturers label things that aren't correct. Sometimes the FETs are labeled wrong. Sometimes they use cheaper components. Sometimes the ESC can't handle it. Also, C ratings on batteries are very similar. If you see a 100 C rated battery and you expect it to pull exactly what it says, or 150 C, be prepared to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Is basically where we're coming from.
One of the things Ryan points out is that if a battery has, what's the example he gives? 65 amp rated ESC, that would suggest that you could draw a 1300 milliamp hour battery in under 20 seconds. If you were really pulling 65 amps per motor times 4 motors, it would suck your battery down in 20 seconds, 25 seconds. That these numbers are not realistic for what performance you will actually see in the real world. And not standardized across manufacturers. Like a diatone 65 amp ESC versus a 65 amp ESC from some other from T-Motor, there's no expectation that there's any standardization to that rating. So what can we take from these numbers? Like if I buy a 80C battery from CNHL and a 120C battery from CNHL, clearly the 120C is going to be better, right? I mean, you would hope so.
Typically, that's the case, yes. I mean, we can at least assume normally for what we would hope is a trustworthy component manufacturer that if they have 2 batteries and they have them at different C ratings, then they will be different batteries and the higher one will be able to handle more current. But I think, ways to think about this might be like, hey, maybe that 80 is a 40 and maybe the 120 is a 60 or something. You know what I mean? Like those are always possible. So, and maybe the next line of their batteries, maybe they use a different cell manufacturer, right? So maybe some of them come from a different company they bought the cells from, or some of them came from a different OEM. So, you can never be sure unless you are aware of the hardware and components that you're purchasing. So just always be wary of that stuff.
And trust the manufacturer's reputation, I suppose. Hopefully.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for Ryan Harrell for reminding us about that. The next PSA is it's the essence of a PSA, which is that like 3 people are going to really care about this and be glad we told them, and everyone else will be just like, So stick with us. It relates to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema.
Yeah, this is actually pretty cool, and it's not in the notes. So I wanted to share a link for the support if you wanted to download this. But actually, we've got reports from the Cinelifter, FPV Cinelifters group. If you're not in there, that's a great private group on Facebook you can join to get information about FPV Cinelifter stuff and share builds and that sort of thing. But it turns out the BMPCC Blackmagic Pro pocket camera Update 8.1 also includes the ability to boot without your display attached. And this has been a pain point for a long time for these cameras. You basically had to have a display or something basically attached to the camera to boot it, to actually power it on. And that is no longer a requirement in this firmware.
And this is relevant because, for those who aren't big in the Cinelifter world, people are taking the guts out of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema and making naked Blackmagic Pocket Cinema. In fact, Halo RC, Chris Bloods, who is seen in that Facebook post, is the founder of Halo RC. They have kits that they do, and in fact, they sometimes even sell pre-made naked Blackmagic Pocket Cinemas. In case you're thinking, oh, I think I'll buy one of those. They're thousands of dollars. That's just how much it's a cinema camera. But for people doing professional work, it's a great way to get a very lightweight, pro quality image. But having to include the frickin' screen on your Cinelifter didn't make any damn sense. So it's great that this firmware has added that. Like you said, that's a real pain point for a whole lot of people. And there are links in the show notes for people who want more information about that. Okay, tell me in the chat, do you have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema naked? If anyone in the chat says yes and is honest, don't just say yes because you want to prove me wrong. I'll be impressed. Okay. All Alrighty. Well, that is going to bring us, let's see, any super chats that we need to read out? Only this one from Alex DeFelice, $20 super chat. Thank you, Alex. It's so generous of you. For the Orca Drama Fund. I can't think of a better time to read that super chat than now when we are about to talk about the Orca. And I tried to think, Blunty, of the most dramatic title I could come up with for this story. I came up with Orca Goggles Bricked Worldwide. How'd I do?
That's fair. Maybe something about ransomware might be catchy or something, but
ooh, ransomware.
That's the term Orca was using.
Yeah.
But either way, today we're going to talk about the Orca date bug, which appears to actually not be a bug.
Might not be a bug.
It's definitely not a bug. That's very clear it's not a bug.
Okay.
Yeah. 100% not a bug.
Let's start by describing the situation before we get into like the drama and stuff. You want to lay it out for people who maybe don't own Orcas or don't know what's up.
Yeah, so if you open our Imager link, we actually got kind of a timeline going on in there. Maybe we can follow along.
You are
the first
prepared.
The first thing we saw was, unfortunately, and we also have a video by Johnny 5 talking about this stuff as well in the show notes. But basically, during the ice race and during WDC, that happened to be when the time bomb went off. So Orca pilots found that while they were powering on their goggles for the second time on the 29th, they were not able to get past a screen that showed them the bootloader or a screen that showed them the picture of this guy Swarg and his company. That were showing up in their goggles. And basically the goggles were locked to the bootloader mode, and then we got an update where they were going to provide us with updates as soon as possible. Then we got an update from Orca that said, hey, we're trying to fix this. We think we have a fix. We're going to publish a fix. And they did publish a fix, but unfortunately we found that V1 goggles did not work for at all. V2 goggles it appears to work for, but it's very hit or miss, and they've decided to not really endorse it as the official fix anymore.
Yeah. So the issue is that if the goggle has a date of, I think it's April 29th, 2023 or later, then when you power the goggles up, the bootloader will lock itself and the goggles won't boot. And so some people are not affected by this because they never actually set the date of their goggles. And so, I don't know, it came set to, January 1st, 2000 or something. And so they just don't know yet that they should brick themselves. But anybody who set the date correctly on this time, their goggles just stopped working.
Yes, unfortunately they did. They stopped working. So yeah, sometimes there were like we said, there were a number of attempts to fix it by Orca, but unfortunately it seems like for many people that did not work. Some people are unbricking their V2s and their race goggles with that procedure. But anyway. So
they did post a procedure. It did work for some people with V2 goggles and race goggles, but it didn't work for the V1s. Do you know if it worked consistently for the V2 goggles? Do we have any idea about that?
It does not work consistently. That's why it was removed, to my understanding.
Yeah,
at least it's not an acceptable fix by Orca.
It's not just the V1 that it doesn't work on. It's also the V2 that it doesn't work. That's my understanding,
correct. Yeah, otherwise they would have published it in every release they've done since then, but they've said we're waiting to release a fix. Okay. So, now through our timeline here.
Okay.
Basically, they were still working to get a solution out. They asked people to fill out a form. We have that form linked in the show notes if you need that form. We're not sure they're going to be using it based on the future information we heard. But yeah, basically, you can fill that form out with the with your information or contact customer support about your goggles. Then we got the next message, which happened earlier today. And basically this message came along a release by another company who put out a statement about the Orca goggle issue. And essentially what happened is Orca is calling this ransomware. And what actually happened instead of a bug was a previous contractor who had worked with them put a time execution based code into the firmware, and that caused it to kick into bootloader mode based on this, what they're calling a time bomb. So basically,
Yeah.
this was something Orca wasn't aware of. They said the contractor put it in maliciously. There is no contract about it, all that kind of information,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. At the same time, we saw basically a post go up by this other company.
Swarg.
And they said, Swarg basically said, like, hey, this is a licensing issue. They didn't pay us. We have a contract, all this kind of stuff. Orca's obviously denying that. And really, if you think it out for about 5 seconds, I don't know that it really makes sense that it could be a licensing issue, because how would these licenses have been applied to all these goggles in a timely manner? Why would Orca have waited this amount of time to actually push a fix and let it happen over a race weekend?
Yeah.
Like, none of the things really add up when you think about if this was a licensing problem.
One of the ways I think about this is you look at the things being said by Swarg, whoever that is, and the replies from Orca, and they disagree on a lot of points, but they both seem to agree that there is code in the bootloader that causes the goggles to brick on this date. And I think, do you agree that both Orca and Swarg agree that Swarg wrote the bootloader? But like Orca thinks that they did it as like an employee or a contractor, and Swarg thinks they did it on a licensing basis, where if Orca didn't re-up the subscription, then it would expire. That seems to be what they're saying. So so either way, Orca has really screwed up here. Either Orca knew that this was licensed and failed to update the subscription or negotiate, and or failed to notify users that they had not done this and their goggles were about to brick, which I don't find that plausible, but that's a theoretical scenario that fits the facts. Or one of Orca's employees put this time bomb in here without them knowing, and they didn't know, and this just happened and they were caught flat-footed. Either way, I mean, this is the kind of thing that can permanently lose you customers, because people will just be like, I can't trust you. I'm not using your product anymore. It's a big deal.
100%. Yeah, and up until even Swarg, I believe, in his statement, and then we also heard from many, many users, the V1 was not working, and there might not be a V1 fix, because if you go, the fix for the V2s was to basically touch two pads, and the two pads touching would allow you to flash a file, and I believe the file reversed the time on the clock just to move it back far enough so that it didn't trigger the bootloader.
It didn't really fix the issue. It just reset the clock.
That's my understanding. That may be incorrect, but that's my understanding of the fix. However, the V1s didn't have those pads, or the pads hadn't been located. But as of earlier today, Ivan put out a statement. If you want to scroll down a little bit farther, there we have some more information from Ivan, some of his talking in the groups. But yeah, we got basically a release earlier today that said, we did it. We fixed it. We found a clean solution for V1 and V2. The team was able to neutralize malicious software and find a fix. We're attention it excessively. He says it'll be out tomorrow morning CST. And then the Orca account also posted, they think it'll be out by the end of the day CST tomorrow. So Orca is saying that your V1 or V2 or in the ostensibly race goggles will be fixable as of tomorrow at the end of day CEST.
I feel like we apologize for the inconvenience is in the running for biggest understatement of history. We will be keeping an eye out. I actually have the beginning of a video recorded about this and about how to fix it. And as soon as they publish an actual fix, I didn't want to publish it with the old fix and have it be incorrect the day I published it. So I'm working on that. Eric Toft says this shows why code reviews are very important to have. But I feel like they might not have caught this even if it was a code review, because there seems to be some indication that this was just like that the Swarg person or entity wrote the bootloader for them and then just delivered them the bootloader, and that they may not even have had the source code to review.
Yeah, so I think there's two ways this can happen. One, it was just written in plain code and they missed it, right? Because they didn't do a code review to see it, right? Or didn't realize it was a problem or whatever.
I mean, that's possible.
Or two, Two, it's a contractor who wrote a blob for them, I think is the normal term. A blob is like an obfuscated, encrypted code that is called by the rest of their code. So all they can see is the calls to the blob and the information back from the blob. However, you would think a company like Orca, as soon as they have the money and resources, would attempt to remove this blob code and get only clear code that they could tell. I think that's also part of a code review. So I think that's where I've seen the criticism come in, is that even if you didn't know what was in that blob, you should have known everything in your code as soon as you could afford to know everything in your code.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is a big screw up, no doubt. There's no question it's a big screw up. Let's see. Vicky Bharati says, if it was a license issue, it would be in a contract. Yeah, I think the claim by Swarg that this was some kind of a licensing thing, to me, it feels like weak tea. But I don't know.
There's no pathway to fixing licensing if this was in there, right? This would have had to happen 6 months ago, a year ago, for them to get in. Like, the Orca goggles aren't connected to the internet. There's tons of users who will power these up without firmware updates. So the only way you would pay this licensing fee would then be to get a file to push to everyone's goggles, and you have to contact every single customer who's ever received a goggle, every goggle in stock everywhere. It makes no sense to attempt to do a licensing plan like this at all.
And the idea that the bootloader like bricks itself, and then the only way to flash it after it's bricked is to go and access programming pads inside the goggle. Like, if it was a licensing thing, then the way that it disabled itself would have been easy to undo once you pay. It's like with ransomware. People say, if I pay for the ransomware, will I get my data back? And generally, if you pay for ransomware, they unencrypt your data and you get your data back, because that's your incentive to pay them. So there would have been a letter that said, "Hi, Orca goggles license expired. Please contact Orca to renew your license." And then it would have been really, really easy to undo that. The fact that they bricked in a sort of semi-permanent way that completely just disabled the goggle seems to support Orca's claim that this was something malicious. But of course, we don't know the facts. Orca says they're going to sue.
Yeah, they've already said that they're trying criminal action. They're going to sue the company. They're going to sue the shareholders. They're going to sue basically everybody involved to try to stop this and make them shut up. I mean, his logo popped up on the goggles, so it seems like he's down to do this. I don't know. It seems very odd, because you have to look at the facts, and if you think like, why would somebody have made this decision? Like, to put this time bomb in and then put their whole company on the line if there wasn't some kind of agreement. Like, it seems very, very, very odd. But also, again, how would this agreement be executed and how would the licensing work? It doesn't really make any sense. So it doesn't make sense, and it's a bit. I feel like we're on the verge of going around in circles, so we should avoid that. But it doesn't make sense. The things that Orca is saying. Here's the thing: the things that Orca is saying, even if true, do not vindicate them. Orca is saying, this was done to us maliciously by someone. But like, if LastPass says, "Hey, I lost all your passwords. Someone broke in maliciously," it's like, I don't care. I'm your customer. You need to deliver me a product that works. The fact that you failed to do that is the big issue here. Not like how mean the guy was who did it to you. It was up to you to prevent this from happening, and you failed. So sorry someone was mean to you. Either way, you effed up. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see what the fix is tomorrow. Hopefully, all the people who were affected will be made whole. That is the one good thing about this. Orca's attitude throughout this has been, we will take care of you as our customer, even if it means shipping every set of Orca goggles in the world back to Croatia at our own expense and turning them around. We will make this right. If you tear your faceplate foam taking the goggles apart, we'll send you new faceplate foam. That is something that they should get 100% full credit for doing right. Good for them.
Absolutely. 100%. Okay. Yeah, we can't fault them for the response. I think it's been, top notch, and they've done everything they can. They got that early fix out, and even though it didn't work for every single goggle, it seemed to work for most people at, like, for instance, the ice race. Everybody there was able to find a goggle to fly with for every race, and nobody missed a heat, as far as I know. So it helped that it happened on qualifying day, but yes, they were able to get everybody's unbricked enough to be flyable and all that kind of stuff. So
if this had been open source code, code on an open source set of goggles, this might not have happened. HT0.
Well, would not have happened, but
Well,
yes,
just because the code is out there doesn't mean anyone's going to see it, but probably somebody would have seen it. Yeah.
Well, what I would say is there could have been a quick solution developed by everyone instead of us waiting on a solution to this thing that we don't. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like if it was open code, it would have been much easier to make a response.
Because it's just more people. Like, I'm guessing that this was some kind of encrypted blob or compiled blob that Orca didn't have access to the source. And then they spent the last 2 days madly staying up all night rewriting it from scratch so they could deliver something to us that we could write instead. And if it had been open source and all the code had been public, that would have gone faster. All right, so that's that. And now it is the perfect time for after I've stayed up all night. After I've stayed up all night. Wait, I got to get rid of the title. Hang on. Title out. There we go. Okay, I'm such a professional. After I've stayed up all night writing a new bootloader for my goggles, there's nothing better to eat than a nice Keto Chow milkshake. Yeah. Keto Chow is the sponsor of this stream. Keto Chow is an easy-to-use meal replacement shake that is designed for low sugar and low carb, but it's suitable for anyone looking for a mix of protein, vitamins, and minerals, but with limited sugar. Keto Chow comes in over 30 flavors, including classic favorites like strawberry, banana, and cookies and cream, with more specialized flavors like lemon meringue, blueberry pie, gingerbread, and yes, snickerdoodle, the favorite of our house. Most people mix it up like a shake with water and heavy cream, but you can use melted butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, or any other fat that you like. A single shake mixes up in about 30 seconds and stores in the fridge for up to 6 days, so they're great for people who don't have the time to make elaborate meals 3 times a day. The recipe is open source. That's why this has why does it have a version number on here? Sorry, it's not on stream. V270. It's open source, and he does revisions of it and publishes all the ingredients so you know what's in it. And the creator did an experiment where he ate only Keto Chow for 100 days and published blood tests, food logs, and loads of other data. You can read more about Keto Chow at the link in the video description below, ketochow.xyz/ref/FPV news. And that link will also give you 34% off a first-time order of the starter kits. That's it down. I've got the Snickerdoodle bag, which, like I said, that's the favorite in our house. My wife did keto for a long time, and she loved it. She said to me this afternoon, she was like, if you want all the dirt on all the different flavors, I can tell you which are the best flavors. We got a little sampler here of the chai latte and the blueberry pie. Blueberry pie.
Nice, that's another flavor.
Yeah.
I saw on the list there. I also got, I think I told people a couple of episodes ago that I got the Elite Kit that I got sent from Keto Chow. And it came with this little book in here. So if you're new to keto, you can figure out, hey, what else can I eat? Because obviously they know you're not only going to eat Keto Chow. That's a little crazy to do that. So you got all kinds of foods and things you can do. Handy little booklet that comes with it.
Very, very cool. You've been eating keto for, how long have you been eating keto for? So you actually used this product.
Yes, I think this round of keto, I'm like 8 weeks somewhere in there. So 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, I lost another like 7 pounds in the last 2 weeks, something like that. So I didn't
want to get personal, but I was going to ask you, like, you losing weight, you trimming down? I can't tell because the beard hides it all.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't been on keto, keto's not like some magic bullet, but keto makes it a lot easier to eat low calories. That's what I use it for. So.
Okay. All right, well, thank you to Chris from Keto Chow, who is also an FPV pilot and a member of my Discord server, as well as the founder of Keto Chow. Thanks to him for sponsoring this segment. I don't know why I put the 2-minute timer up there on there. We always blow through the 2-minute timer. I think we kept it under 7 minutes this time, so we did better for our watchers, though.
Fair enough.
Okay. Let's see if we got any other super chats we need to take care of. Matt Sanders, thank you for a $5 super chat. Thanks for the help today. Did you hear back from GepRC about my flight controller? Matt has a GepRC Smart 3.5 with a flight controller in it that neither of us can figure out what it is. Doesn't exist.
I was trying to help him as well. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I think they've either shipped him a new SKU or something, or there's just a SKU they send that they don't put on their website.
Right. So we can't figure out the pinout diagram for his flight controller.
We fixed it, though. I don't know.
You did fix it?
Message said? Yeah, he figured out. Yeah, he We went back to the backup. The backup showed it was on UART1. Oh, and I think he also flipped the board over, and the board had writing on the bottom of the board under the plug, so he was able to find.
You were like were you one-on-one calling him?
We were talking before we did that, and I saved in the one-on-one call. So yeah.
Damn, dude, you so ethical. Blunty does one-on-one calls. For $50 an hour, he'll get on a Zoom call with you. You can sign up at ItsBlunty.com. Seemed apropos to segue to it. But your problem, and here's why you don't make more money. Not that it's my place to lecture you. You always try to help people for free before you just take their money and get on the Zoom call with them. And so you helped this guy, solved his problem, didn't make any money off it. He's just a good dude.
Well, I'll say he did donate. He made a donation of his own volition. So,
well,
but yes, I mean, my goal is not to take your money. My goal is to fix your problems. But if we got to get on a call, then I've got to charge. That's more where I'm at. So.
Okay. All right. Well, it's blunty.com if you want to get Blunty to help you solve your problems. Tony Morgan, thanks for a $5 super chat. Rvisual.cz, thank you for 200 Czech Koruna. I'm going to go with Czech Koruna. Yes! Oh, I'm learning my currencies. Thank you so much, rvisual.cz, for the donation. And Hugh Bradburn, thanks for $5. He says, made you look. I did look. Okay, we are going to continue with a segment we like to call It's Barely News.
Oh, no, not yet.
What are you talking about?
We got the cinematic of the week.
I was doing so good this week, Blunty, in getting the stories.
We're doing really good. I almost was going to skip it, but we can't because it's a great cinematic. We have to show.
Oh, we can't skip it. All right, we got to go back and get the cinematic of the week. Go.
Okay, today's cinematic of the week is a video from BubbyFPV, who sometimes hangs out in the community, and you know Bubby obviously from Rotor Riot. Bubby has posted a new video of a golf tournament, a Justin Timberlake golf tournament, where he's got a bunch of cool shots he's made, and boy, that kid is good, man. He's
good. Normally, I say I'm not going to play the whole video because I want to make sure this guy gets the views. But Bubby's already popular enough. Let's watch the whole video and really appreciate his... Whoa! Through the trees, baby. Going backwards. Good cut there. Good transition. Sort of hiding the cut in the drone's movement. Oh, we're flight over people. Do you got a waiver for that, son? This is probably a sub 250.
Yeah, we're assuming it's sub 250.
Good old cornhole. You familiar with that game, Blunty?
Yeah.
You are? Yeah, you're from the South.
Yeah.
Boom. That's like the national sport of Tennessee is cornhole. That word has other meanings in other contexts, so it always surprised me when I moved to Tennessee and like outside of every restaurant they got a cornhole booth.
There's some kind of natural cornhole league.
Oh, the guys who are good at it are really good at it.
Yeah.
Like anything. Like Bubby is good at flying. Great shots chasing these balls. Oh, gotta love the row of palm trees, buddy. This is good stuff. Good stuff. Nice. Oh yeah, we got a Johnny FPV in the works here. Very nice, smooth. Like the color grade. He said he did the edit himself. Over on the Rotor Riot.
Yeah, it's great. There's also sound effects for anybody who when you can listen to music and stuff.
Oh yeah, we got the sound turned off because is there any music? Is there licensed music?
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So we got the sound turned off. You want to see it with the sound effects? Go right ahead. Very nice. Very nice.
Great shots, great framing too. Like there's a lot of like just great you can tell he knows where the camera is.
Nice shot.
For a lot of these shots.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It feels a little bit like a show reel in that it doesn't have
kind of what it is.
It doesn't have the same kind of narrative structure that a finished product would have. It's like, look, here's 6 different shots I did of this sign. Yeah, but every one of the shots is a banger.
Yes.
So really, it's good. Hire that kid.
Good stuff. Yeah, somebody should put him on an FPV video.
Yeah. I wonder if that drone had a spoiler on it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Uh-oh. Jekyll, thank you for €6. Here's €5 because I haven't heard you struggle with pronouncing my handle in a while. Ah, but I remember. Jekyll like heckle. Ah! Yeah, leave me 5 more euros. Let's see if I'll do it again. Okay. Now,
Right.
is it time? Is it time for Barely News?
It is time for It's Barely New. And the first thing we got up is actually pretty freaking cool. It's a new 3D printing method. And, there's a bunch of 3D printing I've seen, but it's kind of rare to show and stuff. But I can honestly say today was the first day I had ever seen this method.
Well, I think it's just been invented, hasn't it?
Maybe. I mean, I would assume that's the case, but a lot of these things you see and they're like, oh, well, we've heard about this or saw this, but I literally had never seen this before. So essentially what's happening is the left side of the screen here, these are carbon fiber sheets, essentially, like a woven fiber sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's happening is that it's painting on polymer. My understanding is, anyway, I just learned about this, but it's painting on a polymer onto the sheets of carbon. And then these sheets get stacked, and then they basically go in some cooker oven, and it reduces the sheets down into the thing you see on the right here, which is a set of parts created from this basically meshing of the thermoplastic into the carbon.
So they sandblast away the paper, and then you get like a finished piece, but like there's no need for supports, right? Because the paper is the support. You can print essentially arbitrary 3D objects, and then you get basically a carbon composite. It's insane. I mean, I don't think it's cheap, but considering how carbon material is usually made, I think you could make things from carbon fiber that, like, I guess you could use that, what is it called? Forged carbon, where they chop the carbon fiber and they mold it. Like, I think you might get similar results with that, but I don't know. This is crazy.
I think the biggest issues I've seen in the past with like anything that's not flat is essentially that you don't have the chains of the carbon fiber still there. You have chunks.
Right.
And the chunks change the rigidity and the characteristics of it. But this allows you to maintain, at least in those layers that are inside of this molded thermoplastic, you get these like layers of connected carbon.
This is bonkers. Somebody says there's a 3D printed quadcopter at the end.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's like 4 minutes in, maybe 5 minutes in, somewhere in there. You'll see him hold it up.
There's a prop. Oh my goodness. So this is not something you're going to be doing at home. These are, big industrial machines. But this is an exciting material. Here we go. There's a quadcopter. I'm disappointed to find that it's basically carbon fiber plate. Stop it. It does have an O3. Stop using novel manufacturing methods to reproduce CNC milling a carbon fiber sheet, y'all. There is no benefit. You could have just done this with a CNC milled carbon fiber sheet, except for the props. That's new. I credit for the iFlight motors and the O3 air unit, but those are just carbon fiber. They're not. Okay, there's a slight bend here. I wanted it to be so much cooler than that. I'm disappointed.
Well, the props are carbon fiber there, so
that
something.
is cool. That is cool. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
I think it had a lot more potential to do something more interesting. Anyway,
that's probably true.
Okay.
Next up, we've got
humoring me.
Next up, we've got propeller design for VTOL. We've got. Oh, you did the thing again. Okay.
Oh, you keep clicking on the story, and I keep thinking that's the last story.
Nope,
okay,
that's the one. There you go.
We'll
okay,
get
great.
this right.
All right. So yeah, the next thing we have up is a video we wanted to point out from the channel Electric Aviation. And it's kind of I would say a more between like layman's and scientific guide. Like I would consider Rosser like a scientific charts kind of like data guy. And then some people can kind of gloss over stuff. This video like kind of hits the middle of the road for me for talking about different solutions for eVTOLs and how tip speed is affected in things and how you adding props and like how the designs of different aircraft and planes come into the eVTOL side of things and stuff. So I thought it was worth showing, at least on It's Barely News.
Yeah, a nice little complete guide to props, not just eVTOL. I feel like the title lets it down a little bit. It is a generic guide to props, and then it talks about eVTOLs, but there's a lot of information in here about props, even if you don't really have anything to do with eVTOLs, and well worth a look for anybody involved in FPV and RC flight. So we want to pass that along. The link's down below. All right.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we've got a video from RC Test Flight, who many people on the channel might be familiar with from different videos he's done with FPV and on his own channel. And you might know he works for Alta, and this is the Alta X that he has that he's doing some testing on today.
Free Fly Systems, makers of the Alta.
Right. Yeah, he's out here testing to see if he can add a wing to his Alta and get more efficiency in testing.
And the short version is yes, you can add a wing to an Alta. And yes, he did get an improvement in efficiency. The wing provided some usable lift. However, at certain speeds, things got a little precarious. I think we're about to see an example of that now. No, it's okay. There it goes. Oh, it's not good. It's not good. When a drone with 33-inch propellers is acting like this, that's when your balls climb right up into your pelvis. And you go, oh, stop, please stop. It's not good. So it was not, oh God, it was not without some issues. But yeah, where's the chart, Blunty? Where does he show? Hang on.
A little bit farther, a little bit earlier. There you go.
Here. Oh, a little bit farther. Yeah. So, yeah. Basically,
the blue is with the wing, the green is with no wing, and he does show that at decent speed, so that 10 to 12 meters per second, he does actually get like 24% increased efficiency as far as the wattage goes.
Yeah. So probably we're not going to all run out and put wings on our multi-rotors, but surprise, surprise, wings are more efficient than VTOL props.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, next up, we've got a story about how China is training the next generation of carrier pilots, and it's way more low-tech than you might think.
Yeah, that's true. Low-tech, but also high-tech. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't even know about FPV. Obviously they're not with us today, but yeah, so China is using DJI systems and head trackers to basically train people what it's like to take off in a plane and what awareness you'll have when you look around and things like that to kind of get them into the idea before they get into a real cockpit.
I guess this is cool. I can't decide. I mean, it's cool to see FPV being used for various things. But I'm surprised to see such consumer grade stuff being used to train military. Are these military pilots?
Ostensibly, it does appear that they are, yeah.
Or is this like some, the Naval Aviation University of the PLA Navy?
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised they don't have like bigger simulators, or I don't know. I don't think that's how we train. I don't know. Anyway, good for them for using FPV.
All right.
We're going to find out that was a misreported story or something. What about another use for drones in China? Is this China?
Yeah. I'm not sure, but this is a drone doing some work that people don't like to do, which is climbing up the side of buildings to clean them. And this drone helps take care of that by doing all that work for the people instead. So yeah, it goes up and sprays instead of the people going up there. And reports are anywhere as 10 times as fast to clean a building because you don't have to have hoists and layouts and all the kinds of stuff you would need to do.
How clean? I wonder how clean it really gets. Like when you clean your car, they say you shouldn't clean your car with just a pressure washer because without physical scrubbing of at least a little bit of scrubbing, you don't get it fully clean. But I guess that's still probably better than many alternatives. It's still like 90% as good with, but a lot faster.
Yeah, or maybe it's like a maintenance thing, and then you can have every now and then have somebody go scrub, something like that.
Sure. Jeff Locke wonders that since the drone is tethered, does that mean you don't need a 107? If you, I don't think it's tethered. Is it tethered? Would you need a 107 for that?
I mean, I think if that thing is going to the ground and it can hold the drone down, I think that would be the requirement. Is it can't like unhook. But I think that would be tethering. I don't think the control has to be tethered. I think it just has to be tethered so it can't escape.
Oh well, I don't think it's going anywhere. Cool Cat thinks that expanding foam lifts the dirt off. Does it though? It's like scrubbing bubbles. I mean, I didn't get to see. I would have liked to have seen a before and after. I saw it spraying the foam. I didn't see what the building looked like when it was done. So, I call me a skeptic or call me a hater. There's one thing I don't hate though. Do you know what it is, Blunty?
Koalas?
I love koalas. You're damn right.
Yeah, we have a story about koalas today, specifically, of course, drones and koalas, because we've got some drone-based koala detection programs being developed in Australia and being used by citizen scientists to go and map areas and find them koalas.
This is a big deal. I actually had a little live stream rant sometime back about the fires in Australia basically threatening the very existence of koalas by killing all the trees that they live in. We gotta take care of the koalas.
Yeah, they're basically taking thermal images and then using artificial intelligence and a koala algorithm to detect koalas based on their thermal signature and make maps of the koala. Yep.
This is an example of one of the koalas they found. It is actually a picture of the very koala that they found with the drones. It was in the middle of a meal when they found him, so, pardon him.
Really?
Yeah, eating them eucalyptus leaves. And we got one more story, a happy story about drones. We always like to share those so people can know that drones are not just spying on you in your backyard and breaking your building windows, but making your life better in some way.
Yeah, a 3-year-old girl has been rescued by drone. We always like to put this stuff out because, it's cool to see search and rescue being helped so much by drones. And this was another case of that, where they were able to locate this girl in a ravine near her house, and it was much easier to do by drone because they found her in the middle of some bushes that they weren't able to easily locate on the ground.
Nice. And here's just clip art of a bunch of different drones, none of which are in any way related to the story. I'm guessing. I've seen like 3 different drones. Very cool. Very cool. And always like to share happy stories like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that? Oh, that's not it though. We're not done yet. We got a couple more super chats. We are almost done with the stream. There's still 7 minutes left before the top of the hour. So if you've got something that you feel very important that we react to or that we talk about, leave a super chat. We will keep streaming as long as super chats are there to be read. Including this super chat from Kim Fused. Always good to hear from you, Kim Fused. I hope you're doing well. Kim Fused is one of the Rotor Riot Quad Crew supporters and always shows up to those streams that I do. Her and her husband. And many other people too, unrelated to Kim. But Kim, thank you for a $20 super chat for goat training, and thank you for all that you both do. There will not be any goat training. Our goats are the best we can do is to train them that when they hear the clankety clank, that means there's feed and they need to come running. Any other kind of like don't eat my hedge, no. We just moved them into a new area, so they got some fresh grass to eat.
You're not gonna clicker train your goat?
I mean, I believe that it's possible, but I know. Goats are highly motivated and intelligent. But they would much rather eat my hedge than not eat it. They're supposed to be eating the poison ivy.
Do your dogs herd the goats? Is that a thing?
Mamba, he will chase them and like nip at their neck, which they do not like. We don't like. This is like we actively prevent this, but sometimes it happens due to our failure of our prevention. He will not herd them, but he will chase them like he is going to take them down and kill them. He doesn't but he will like nip at their neck while they run, and I am sure that they think they're going to die. But being prey animal, that's just like, oh, and like 5 minutes later, they're just like, they don't even seem to remember that happened.
Yeah,
so
we just call that Wednesday.
right, exactly. Yeah, no, it's weird because he'll be totally cool around them and just like, meh, there they are. And then he'll just get a wild hair and like run them down. The final straw was, we thought they were getting along, but the final straw is, we have this on my patio, right? We have this brick wall that's cut into a hill. I'm sure you've seen it on my videos. It's about 12 feet high, let's say. And the goats were on top of the hill, and he chased them, and one of them leapt off the hill. So I'm sitting down there on my laptop at the table, and all of a sudden there's a goat flying through the air at my head. It didn't hit me. The goat landed. It ran away and didn't seem to be hurt, but I didn't think jumping off a 12-foot wall was like something that the goat should do every day. And we were like, he can't be out with the goats anymore. So, Isaac Mitchell, thanks for a $2 super chat. Just woot woot. Hammer Danil, thanks for a $2 super chat. Is it easy to bind a TX16S to Express LRS? It's as easy as Express LRS ever is. Blunty, what's your go-to method right now for binding Express LRS?
Just quick tips. The first thing you do, check your Express LRS Lua and look at what version of Express LRS you're on. If you need to update, you have to flash 252 first. If you're under 252, then you flash the repartitioner, then you flash 3.x. Once you've done that, or you're on the same version as maybe like an SPI receiver, which 4.3 is 2.x and 4.4 is 3.x, or your other receivers, then you'll go in. My way would be, if the flashing, so if you're flashing, go ahead and put in the binding phrase. Hopefully everything works out, your binding phrases work, and everything just links up. If it doesn't, go check that web UI, which you can connect to by connecting to the Wi-Fi that you're broadcasting by your receiver or your transmitter, and then go type in the binding phrase in the web UI to make sure that you've got the correct binding phrase, because the web UI takes precedence, and some devices might have web UI data already there.
Yeah, I would say the first thing I would do is I would log into the web browser interface and just type the binding phrase in. And while I was there, I would look at what version number was on the module. And then I would log into the web browser interface on the receiver, and fingers crossed it's the same version. Fingers crossed they're both on ExpressLS 3, at which point you just put the same binding phrase into the receiver and you're good to go and you saved yourself. But then if the versions don't match, then you're going to have to flash and things get a little more complicated.
The one thing I wasn't sure of, and I think in 1.0 the web UI didn't show the correct version, but does it in 2.0?
I don't think 1.0 had the web UI at all. I thought that got added.
It did have a web UI.
It did.
Well, it had a web flashing interface, but it didn't have the web UI. So 2.0 does show you the correct version. Is that right? That's the thing I wasn't sure about.
It shows the correct version, as far as I know. Yeah, for sure.
10.4.
We got the goats to eat the poison. Goats like to eat poison ivy. It doesn't hurt them. They're just not susceptible to it. They're immune to it, and they think it tastes good. So if you put some goats in the woods over the course of a few weeks, they'll just eat all the poison ivy in the woods, and the woods won't have any poison ivy, and that'll be nice. So that's why we got the goats. But the goats they were hand raised because we wanted pet goats that didn't try to run away and escape, and we don't have to worry too much about them escaping. And the problem is that since they're pet goats and we're bottle raised, they don't want to be alone in the woods all day by themselves. They want to come into the house. So instead of being in the woods and eating the poison ivy, they come and sit on my patio and shit all over my furniture. Because they can't be on the ground. They have to be up on the table and stuff. So now they live over there and they don't get to eat poison ivy, but they also don't get to shit on my furniture. We don't milk them. We don't eat them for meat. They're supposed to be working and they're not. But they're cute. So, Hugh Bradburn, thanks for a $2 super chat. No sausage doggy, no love. True. Mechanicern, thank you for 25 Norwegian kroner. Can you herd your goats with a quad? You can. It feels a little bit mean, but because they're terrified, but you can do it. Okay. Mike Bergman is still waiting for Black Jungle to make a goat meme. Guess what? Black Jungle is on the memes. He already made it. Yeah, that's about right. we got a $9.99, $10 from Don Dupuis. Thank you for $10, Don. I used butter on my V2 goggles and rolled back to 0607, not 0606. Only shows 0607. How would you upgrade if you wanted to? Actually, Don, there's a quirk to butter, and that is that butter rolls you back to 0606 or whatever it says it would. I don't remember. But the version number that the goggles show still says whatever the goggles were on before you buttered them. So for some reason, butter can't change that actual number. So a lot of people run butter. It seems to work. They look at the version number and they go, what do you mean it didn't work? Except if you think about it, Don, after you used butter, your goggles were reset. You lost all your binds, yada, yada, yada. Butter worked. They're on 0606. It's just they think they're just saying they're on 0607. So what you should do is you should root them. And then after they're rooted, now you update them to whatever firmware version you want them to be on via DJI Assistant, and then they'll show the correct version number. And then install WTFOS and all that other nonsense.
Just a reminder also, if you're buttering and having no success or having problems rolling back, you can't root after that. Remember that you do need to switch to the DIY mode of the goggles. I've helped quite a few people with that because they were confused about that. And if you can't switch, you need to update your goggles forward to the latest if you have to. Then that will let you roll back with butter once you can switch to that DIY mode.
Okay, so first update your goggles to the latest version.
If you can't
then switch to the FPV mode. Then butter them to get them back to 0606. Then root them. Then flash the latest firmware again. Then install WTFOS.
Also,
it's just that simple, folks. I don't know why this is hard for you.
And it is important to at least flash to 102.0001 or later. Because after you've done the root and stuff, you can't just leave them on the old stuff, even if you have old hardware. Because there's a bug that was only fixed on the drone side, even though it's not available for the DIY side, that stopped blackout issues and a power loss bug. So you need to update past 102.0001. Or to that version.
And people
so
say...
I would just update to the latest because it is supported by WTFOS.
People say you can't make a career out of FPV. We got a super chat here from Mario Guzman for $2. Thank you, Mario, for $2. It's barely goats. And Christoph FPV, thanks for $10 super chat. I need a new controller for my Emax Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle and my Hawk Pro. What's the best or easiest FreeSky D8 controller I can buy? I mean, to tell you the truth, I would, what's your budget? I would say look in the $100-ish price range at things like the Radiomaster Zorro, the Radiomaster Boxer, or perhaps you like the Jumper T-Lite Pro or something like that. Any one of them with a 4-in-1 module will bind to a D8 receiver and will be a good quality controller. If you are only at the $40 or $60 range, then it gets a little harder to pick something. But I think it's worth spending closer to $100 if you plan to be in the hobby for the next couple of years. Thoughts, Blunty?
Just remember you're using that controller for like everything forever, including your simulator stuff, or at least until you upgrade your controller again. And your drones are going to cost well over that amount unless you're just buying a tiny whip to start. And even then, it's going to cost as much or more than that cheap controller you were going to buy. So I would definitely consider spending a little bit of money and getting something good there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, folks, we are at the top of the hour. We've read all the super chats. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for being viewers. And remember, if you thought that news was too short and we didn't have enough stories, you can send news at fpvknowitall.com with your submissions. Don't forget to do that. Many people did submit this week with the Orca story. Thank you to Keto Chow for supporting the stream. And we will see you again next week.